Elias Mercer stopped counting the days after the third winter. Time, he had learned, was only useful when someone else expected you to keep it. Out here, deep in the forest where no roads reached and no signal dared exist, time was a burden, not a structure. It reminded him of what he had left behind, and worse, what had forgotten him. The forest did not care about calendars. It only knew cycles, cold and hunger, growth and decay, silence and sound. And Elias had become a part of that rhythm. His cabin stood crooked among towering pines, its wood darkened by years of rain and neglect. He had built it himself, one aching joint at a time, using tools salvaged from his past life. Every plank carried a memory of exhaustion. Every nail had been driven with stubborn determination. Inside, it was simple. A bed, a table, a rusted stove, shelves filled with jars of dried berries and preserved meat. No mirrors. He had stopped wanting to see his own face. He had come here to disappear. And for a long time, he believed he had succeeded. It started with the feeling, not a sound, not a sight, just a presence. Elias first noticed it in the early mornings, when the fog still clung low to the forest floor and the world felt unfinished. He would step outside, breath curling into the cold air, and pause. Something was off. The forest, usually alive with subtle noise, the rustling of leaves, the distant calls of birds, the faint creaking of trees, would fall unnaturally still, as if everything had paused at once. As if everything was listening. At first, he blamed his mind. Isolation did strange things. He knew that. He had read about it long before he chose this life. Humans weren't built to be alone forever. The brain started filling in gaps, inventing patterns where none existed. So he ignored it. He chopped wood, set traps, maintained his routines with mechanical precision. Routine was survival. Not just for the body, but for sanity. But the feeling didn't fade. It grew. The first real sign came in winter. Elias had set a line of traps near a frozen stream, checking them every 2 days. It was a harsh season. Food was scarce, and every catch mattered. On the third check, something was wrong. All the traps had been triggered, but not a single animal remained. He crouched in the snow, examining the area. No blood. No drag marks. No tracks except his own, now partially covered by fresh snowfall. It made no sense. Predators left evidence. Even the cleanest kill left something behind. Disturbed snow, scattered fur, broken branches. This was deraced. Elias stood slowly, scanning the trees. The silence pressed in on him again, heavy and deliberate. "Hello," he called out, his voice rough from disuse. The forest swallowed the word whole. No answer. He told himself it was coincidence. A fluke. Some strange natural occurrence he didn't understand. But that night, he kept the fire burning longer than usual. And he didn't sleep. Days turned into weeks, and the anomalies continued. Food disappeared. Tools were moved, just slightly, just enough to make him question his memory. Once, he found his axe leaning against the opposite wall of the cabin from where he was certain he'd left it. Another time, he returned from gathering wood to find the door slightly ajar. He never left it open. Never. Elias began marking things. He scratched small lines into surfaces. Subtle indicators only he would notice. A notch on the table where his knife rested. A faint cross on the handle of his water bucket. Within days, the marks betrayed him. Things were moving. Not wildly. Not chaotically. Carefully. Intentionally. Fear settled in slowly, like frost creeping over glass. It wasn't the sharp panic of immediate danger. It was something deeper. Colder. He was not alone. And whatever shared this forest with him was watching. Elias changed his routines. He became unpredictable, left at odd hours, returned without warning, set false trails, slept in shifts instead of full nights. It didn't matter. The presence adapted. It always seemed to know. The second winter brought something worse. Proof. It happened during a storm. Snow fell in heavy sheets, blanketing the world in white silence. Visibility dropped to almost nothing. Elias stayed inside, feeding the fire, listening to the wind claw at the cabin walls. That was when he heard it. A sound. Not the wind, not the forest. A soft, deliberate movement. Inside, Elias froze. The sound came again, a faint shift, like fabric brushing against wood. His hand slowly reached for the knife on the table. The room felt smaller, tighter. The firelight flickered, casting long, distorted shadows across the walls. "Who's there?" he demanded, voice steadier than he felt. Silence. Then, a figure moved at the edge of the light. Not fully visible, just enough to register shape. Height. Motion. Elias lunged forward, knife raised. But there was nothing. Only the empty corner of the cabin. His breath came fast, visible in the cold air. He turned slowly, scanning every inch of the room. The door was still closed. The windows were intact. There was nowhere for anyone to hide. And yet, he had seen something. That night, Elias did not sleep at all. The encounter broke something inside him. Denial became impossible. He wasn't imagining it. Something was there. Something intelligent. Something that chose not to be seen. Days later, Elias found the footprint. It appeared just outside the cabin, pressed lightly into the snow. Not animal, not human. The shape was wrong, too elongated, too symmetrical. The impression was shallow, as if whatever made it didn't weigh as much as it should. He stared at it for a long time. Then he looked up. The forest stared back. "Enough," Elias muttered. He was done being watched. The next morning he prepared. He packed supplies, sharpened his tools, set a series of traps, not for animals, but for whatever had been stalking him. Then he did something he hadn't done in years. He left the cabin and didn't come back by nightfall. Instead, Elias climbed higher into the forest, beyond his usual range, into territory even he had avoided. If something was observing him, it had a vantage point, a place it returned to. He intended to find it. The climb was brutal. Snow deepened as elevation increased. The air thinned, biting at his lungs. Branches clawed at his clothes. But Elias pushed forward, driven by anger, by fear, by the unbearable weight of not knowing. It was near dusk when he found it. A clearing, perfectly circular, unnaturally so. No trees, no brush, just a smooth expanse of ground, free of snow despite the storm. Elias stopped at the edge, heart pounding. This wasn't natural. It couldn't be. He stepped forward cautiously. The air inside the clearing felt different. Still. Charged. "Are you here?" he called out. His voice echoed strangely, as if the space itself distorted sound. No answer, but the feeling returned, stronger than ever. "You've been watching me," Elias continued, gripping his knife. "I know you have. I'm done with your games." The silence stretched. Then, a voice. Soft. Clear. Behind him. "I know." Elias spun around, and for the first time, he saw her. She stood at the edge of the clearing, half in shadow. Her form was unmistakably humanoid, yet subtly wrong in ways his mind struggled to process. Her posture was too precise. Her stillness too perfect. Her eyes. They reflected light in a way that no human eyes should. Elias didn't move, didn't breathe. "You can see me now," she said. Her voice carried an unusual resonance, as if layered with something just beyond hearing. "What are you?" Elias asked. She tilted her head slightly, studying him. "That is not a simple question. Try me." A pause. Then, "I am not from your world." The words should have felt absurd, impossible, but standing there, in that unnatural clearing, staring at something that defied explanation, Elias believed her. "Why?" he demanded. "Why me?" "I was assigned to observe this region," she replied calmly. "You were unexpected." "Unexpected. You removed yourself from your species. That is rare. It made you interesting." Elias laughed bitterly. "So, I'm a curiosity." "In part." Anger flared. "You've been stealing from me, moving my things, watching me like I'm some kind of experiment." Her expression, if it could be called that, shifted slightly. "I did not intend harm." "That's not the point." Elias took a step forward. "Do you have any idea what you've done? The way this messes with your head?" She was silent for a moment. Then she said something unexpected. "Yes." Elias stopped. "What?" "I have been studying your psychological responses," she continued. "Your isolation, your adaptation, your resilience, your deterioration." "My what?" "You are changing," she said. "Your species is not designed for prolonged solitude. Yet you persist. It is remarkable." Elias felt a chill that had nothing to do with the cold. "You've been studying me this whole time." "Yes." "For how long?" She hesitated. Then, "Since before you built the cabin." The world seemed to tilt. "You mean you've been here since the beginning?" "Yes." Elias staggered back slightly. All those years, all that time, he thought he was alone. He never had been. "Why reveal yourself now?" he asked hoarsely. "Because you are close to discovering me," she said. "And because your behavior has become unstable." "Unstable," he snapped. "You were preparing to leave your established territory. That increased risk." "Risk for who?" A pause. "Both of us." Silence stretched between them. Snow began to fall again, lightly at first. "What happens now?" Elias asked. She studied him carefully. "That depends on you." "On me?" "Yes." She stepped forward into the clearing, fully visible now. Her form shimmered slightly, as if not entirely anchored to reality. "You may continue your existence as before. I will withdraw my direct interference." Elias let out a humorless laugh. "Now you offer me privacy?" "Yes." "And if I don't want that?" Another pause. Then, "You could come with me." The words hung in the air, heavy, impossible. "Come with you?" Elias repeated. "Yes." "To where?" She looked upward. "Beyond this world." Elias stared at her, at the being who had watched him for years, who had quietly shaped his reality without his knowledge, who now stood offering something no human had ever truly been given. "Why?" he asked again, softer this time. Her answer was different now, less clinical, more uncertain. "Because you are alone," she said. "And so am I." The forest fell silent once more. But this time, it didn't feel empty. Elias looked back toward the direction of his cabin, his life, his solitude, his escape. Then he looked at her, at the unknown, at the impossible. For years, he had believed he had chosen isolation. But now he understood something deeper. He had been hiding, and somehow, something had found him anyway. "Will I survive?" he asked quietly. She considered the question. "I do not know." Elias nodded slowly. A strange calm settled over him. He had come to the forest to disappear. But, perhaps, he had only been waiting to be seen. "Okay," he said. And for the first time in years, he stepped forward. Not into solitude, but into something else entirely. The clearing pulsed faintly with light. The air shifted, and the forest, for the first time since he arrived, let him go. No one would ever find the cabin again. No one would know what happened to Elias Mercer. But somewhere beyond the stars, a man who thought he was alone finally wasn't.